Hi everyone, it's Tim here and thanks for joining me for another video. In this video, I'm going to give you 20, yes that's 20 ideas for keeping scales fresh and interesting. This is going to be useful if you're a teacher or a student. I hope you'll come with me on the journey. Now make sure if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button and the bell to make sure you get notified when we go live and release videos each week. Okay, I've got a sheet recorded for you. You can download this. Just make sure you have a look for the links below this video so you've got a reference for it. But let's start off with number one. Play your scale with just one finger. So you'd be surprised how tricky this is for students, because a lot of the way that we learn scales in particular, and any passages in music, is muscle memory, and our fingers just kind of remember where to go. So removing muscle memory by just playing with one finger can be a real test for students. So that's step number one, or tip number one. Tip number two, shut your eyes. If you haven't tried that before, that can be a really great one to do as well. Tip three, try playing your scales staccato if you haven't done that. And you can either do that kind of finger flicking, dust off the keys style staccato, or more bouncy, depending on what you'd like to do. So that was number three. Number four, play in rhythms. Now you can do all sorts of rhythms. The easiest one would be a kind of swing rhythm. My teacher, if you've seen any of my other videos, she used to use a rhythm called pom, tiddly pom, tiddly pom. It was kind of quarter note and then triplet, dum, da, 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 dum. And I use that all the time in my own practice. Pom. You can flip that around and go tiddly pom, tiddly pom. There are heaps of different rhythms you can use. So try playing your hands in rhythms. If you want some ideas about rhythms, then I've got a sheet for that. We'll make sure we link that below the video as well. All right, another tip or practice strategy you can use is to cross your hands over. So we simply start crossed hands like this. Let's try say G. And that's a great way to make sure your hands are coordinated. It also really exposes whether you're playing in sync or not. Another thing that exposes whether your hands are truly in sync, so if you're not too sure and you're playing kind of fast, and you're thinking, oh, my hands actually really together, try playing them 2 octaves apart. So I'm going to space my hands 2 octaves apart this time and play it. You tend to get, with that spaced kind of sound between the two hands, you tend to be able to hear whether they're in sync better. So that's tip number 6, playing 2 octaves apart. Tip number 7, displaced accents. So if you picture your scales as being in groups of 4, you can take any of those groups of 4 and explore displacing the accents. That just means moving the accent around. So if we have a look overhead, let's say this is our scale pattern. You could try accenting the first of each group. Or you can displace that and try accenting the second of each of those groups. We could do the third, and then of course the fourth as well. So the third, or the fourth. Quite tricky for students for the first time they do that. Just make sure they really accent the displaced accent as it comes up each time. So that's number 7. Now tip number 8 is we can use dynamics. So we could start softly and crescendo and then decrescendo. Or you could inverse or reverse that. And really just think about the weight of your arm, like think about arm weight when you really want to play strongly, rather than kind of bashing the keys. It's more about control and arm weight. Okay, number 9, you can grab your old friend, the metronome. Who doesn't love practicing scales with a metronome? And it doesn't have to be an old clackety one like this. You could use an app. It'd work just as well. Okay, what could we do for number 10? We're halfway there. Play along to a backing track. There's an app that I love and I've got other videos about. It's called Music Clock, and it's a great one that just provides some cool backing tracks for scales. So what scale should I do now? Let's do E flat major. And I've got this Bluetoothly connected through to the Kawai Ores, so it's coming out of the soundboard of the piano now. So here's our little backing track. And we can play E flat major. You don't have to stop at the top and restart like I did, but it's just one way you can try using that app. That's great. That's just one of the many backing tracks inside that app. So that's called Music Clock, M-U-S-I-C-L-O-C-K. All right, number 11, similar motion, first ascending and then ascending. We always start our scales at the bottom, so try starting your scales at the top. So what can we do? Let's do E major. Number 12, contrary motion. Now you should be playing your scales in contrary motion anyway, but just make sure you are. You don't have to always start on the same note either. Try starting an octave apart. And a great tip I once learned from one of my teachers was to, if you're having trouble with contrary motion and you're really trying to learn how to do it well, try looking at one hand, so playing it and looking at one hand. So this time I'm going to look at the left hand. You would do 2 or 4 octaves, of course. I'm just demonstrating with 1 octave. And then look at the right hand. And then don't look at either hand. And then do it faster. It is a great way to practice your contrary motion scales. Okay, that was number 12, I think. So number 13, melodic minors. Now, what's the most challenging part of a melodic minor? Well, if you're like me, it's the turnaround, the top part, where you go up in one scale and you come back in a different scale. So tip number 13 is, to play your melodic minor scales and just play the octave at the top. So let's just explore this with, sorry, I've got an itchy nose, A minor, for example. So as you can see, we go up by, with the raised 7th and the 6th. And then both of those are cancelled on the way down. So just try playing the turnaround bit. You'll soon get used to the motions that your hands need to go through in order to play that, and that's the hardest part of any melodic minor scale in my opinion. All right, tip number 14, play in triplets and play 3 octaves of your scale. So let's choose a different key. How about we go to G flat major? So let's go. Now I'm purposefully accenting the 3s, and that's okay to do as well. Yeah, da, 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 da. And you can see that it fits beautifully over 3 octaves. You could do the same thing. You could go to quintuplets. Is that what that would be called? Groups of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And do 5 octaves if you want to. You can do as many variations as you'd like. Number 15. One hand staccato, the other hand legato. So let's try that for, what should we do? F major. So I'm going to do left hand staccato, right hand legato. And then swap over. You could even swap over at the top. You'll have to concentrate with that one. Okay, what are we up to? I think we're up to number 16. One hand piano, one hand forte. So we could do this. Which hand was I bringing out that time? That was the right hand if you heard correctly. So let's try bringing out the left hand now. Great great one for getting the two hemispheres of the brain going. Then swap over, and you can also do the same thing as I did with the staccato and legato. You could turn around at the top and come back with the opposite. So that was 16. We're getting close to the 20. Number 17, 2 notes in the right hand for every 1 note in the left hand. So we're simply going to play our scale. What should we go to this time? Let's do A flat major. And for every 1 note in the left hand, I'm going to play 2 in the right hand. If you want the left hand to do the 2 notes, then just make sure you separate your hands a bit. Had to think about that one a little bit. So that's number 17. Number 18, starting to get complex now. 2 versus 3 polyrhythms, or 4 versus 3 polyrhythms, if you'd like to try. So this time I'm going to play 3 notes in my right hand for every 2 in the left. And they do meet somewhere along the line, and you can do that with 4 verse 3, and you could change over hands as well. So that was number 18. Number 19, here's just one example of an accent pattern that you could use. On the way to this lesson, I stopped for a Coke. On the way to this lesson, I stopped for a Coke. Let's try it in, what should we try it in? B. On the way to this lesson, I stopped for a Coke. On the way to this lesson, I stopped for a Coke. Okay, you can make up any kind of rhythm or rhyme or accenting sentence at all. Make it as hard or as easy as you want. That's number 19. Finally, number 20, the old, I don't know why it's called the Russian method. I assume the Russian school of piano used to teach this method a lot, or the grand scale format of playing scales. This is how I practice my scales if I'm going to do a scale practice. And you may know this one already. We're going to start, let's play D flat major. We're going to go up 2 octaves, hands in similar motion. And then at this point, we're going to go to contrary motion. Back in. And then up. So we've got a great combination of contrary and similar motion. Whoops. So there you have it, 20 ways to play scales for either you or your students. What other ideas have you got? I would love for you to let me know in the comments below, and make sure you hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button too. I can't wait to share my next video with you. And also make sure you grab the download for this so you've got a quick reference of all those 20 ideas for keeping your scales interesting. See you in the next video.